Gather all as we prepare to relate to you the epic tale of an urban school district in Georgia, once beleaguered but re-emerging as if a phoenix from the ashes. It shall be a tale of transformation and of student and teacher exploration. It's a narrative of a quest for excellence, and we shall get to it hence. No journey goes forth without some cost. So welcome one of our most generous patrons, Wells Fargo Region Bank Vice President for Community Relations, Chris Christie.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Wells Fargo is honored to serve as a presenting sponsor of the APS Journey of Transformation. We remain committed to the students and educators of APS and must invest in the journey if we want our brave heroes to have choice-filled lives. Now that our troops and crews have gathered before us, please stand as we raise the colors and say the pledge before we continue the journey.
Of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Now that we have your eyes and ears, lend us your hearts too. Gather all as we relate to you the epic tale of Atlanta Public Schools, where exist brave children, some 52,000 of them, ever so deserving of the richness of knowledge and experience. As do intrepid educators, 6,000 strong, dedicated to a culture so caring and true, thus to teach our young heroes so that they may have abundance of choices in life, whether collegiate, service, or career-related and beyond. And now join us, dear friends,
Students,
educators, partners, families alike,
on a voyage where we are no longer left adrift, a voyage well at sea but far from completed.
a journey of transformation, a quest, if you will, for excellence, and choice-filled lives. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. It's time to look back behind you to the prologue of our Odyssey, the start of our epic journey that led us down the path to present day.
Welcome to the 2019 State of the District. My name is Maria Karstarpin, and I'm still the very proud superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools. We are indeed on a journey of transformation of epic proportions. And I applaud you for your courage, for your strength, and for your continued investment in us today and our quest for excellence. You will learn the true tales of valor, of challenge, of advancement in a school district, mapped out on the floor on which many of you are seated. But be warned, this journey has not, it is not, it shall not be easy for the faint of heart. We shall return to present in a moment, but understand that our journey began many moons ago in the 1800s when the Civil War ended and Atlanta began to rebuild. As part of that work, the city formed its own independent school system in 1872. Just 3 grammar schools and 2 high schools. For more than a century, our school district waded in the troubled waters of transformation to be interpreted by the Beecher Hills Dancers. Of white students. But that changed in 1924, almost a century ago. The district opened Booker T. Washington High School, the first public high school for African Americans. It took almost 4 decades. In 1961, Atlanta first integrated schools. 9 students bravely walked into 4 all-white high schools in Atlanta public schools and changed Atlanta history forever. At the time praised Atlanta for its deliberative 3-year desegregation process and the absence of violence. In the 1970s, we saw our first black superintendent, Alonzo Krim, and our black board chair, Benjamin E. Mays. A new century started, and a sense of progress did begin, but it was shattered with headlines of scandal and evidence of cheating. A new board and leadership took place, and at that beleaguered moment in history, we ripped apart the systemic issues inherent within our district, preparing for a turnaround designed to narrow and close achievement gaps. We are preparing all students for college, career, and life. We want to close the book on long-standing vestiges of racism, inequities, and disenfranchisement and scandal. We must never, ever forget the lessons and stories of those before us and who have paved the road. 5 years ago, we met at the intersection of our past and the quest for excellence.
Book 1, The State of the Journey of Transformation Thus Far, where we consider our past and present so we can understand where we must go.
As has become our tradition, those telling the story today are our overwhelmingly talented, beautiful, heroic students. These books were illustrated by Henry Gelber of Grady High School, along with the shadow puppeteers and jester debaters. We also have more debaters from the Harvard Diversity Project, dancers and singers from Beecher Hills and Mays High School, Washington's Bad to the Bone, JRTC units from CSK, Best, Farrell, and Carver, slam poets from Jackson High, the reading trailblazers of Harper Archer, South Atlanta's football players, cheerleaders, and band, and even a Greek chorus and live symphony orchestra from North Atlanta.
The Grady High School Shadow Puppetry Troupe presents States of the District, From Ferns to the Fields of Walden.
The journey for Atlanta Public Schools has been treacherous. Plagued by monsters and beasts of inequities and scandal and mistrust of the past. It was half a score years ago that the unrelenting waters of swindle, deception, and fraud capsized many a ship. The scandal sent the reputation of the district to the 4 winds. A temporary crew assembled so the district could sail on until new patrons, governors, commander, and crew could take the helm and set forth on a journey of transformation and the elusive quest for excellence. In the 14th year of the 21st century, the new commander and governors encountered the first state of the schools in the old ways, always on winged-back thrones between ferns. But the winds were already changing, so it was time to set a new direction, always making course corrections towards the vision on the horizon. A rising sun on a future where all of Atlanta Public Schools children have opportunities for choice-filled lives. So, the new governors and commander christened a new day and began a new narration of the APS tale. A short year later, as the fleet rediscovered Howard, a site of legacy and learning of leaders past, the commander reported APS performing far below the potential of its sailors. The district, much like Howard itself, was desperately in need of transformation or else it risked takeover by the state armada. And thus, the governors and commanders sparked awareness and solicited resources to gain commissions to embark on a bold new expedition known as the APS Journey of Transformation. In year 3, fueled by the jewels of East Blast and more than 200 patrons, they sailed on, bolstered by gathering winds of change and holding in their hearts inspiration from a civil rights icon and a revolutionary hero. Settling on the shores of the School of King and taking a cue from Hamilton, the commander declared the district in full-scale implementation of our transformation. The baseline was set, the fleet had stronger ships, but the performance of its sailors was mixed. Year 4, APS has retired some ships, merged crews of others, and funded new ones. Tax collectors foiled the journey, forcing crews on leave and delaying voyages. But the fleet returns to a strategic course formulated around academics, talent, operations, and culture. Upon a call to return home, troops young and old, near and far, convened at the Point of Hollis as the commander reports that the transformational strategy was gaining ground, with improvements in graduation rates and performance data, yet significant achievement gaps remained. A year hence, in the 5th year of transformation, the fleet disembarked upon the fields of Walden, in celebration with song and dance. Despite APS facing ongoing skirmishes and squalls, the tides had begun to turn. Rates of graduation had improved, as well as the performance of warriors on land as well as on sea. But a gap remained to be traversed. More lands and waters needed to be conquered, and the journey continued. Indeed, after 5 passings of the 4 seasons, many ships have been set to right. They have been equipped and crewed, and they have made progress. Unbeknownst to the weary but intrepid adventurers, they have captured the hearts and minds of local villages, the imaginations of other explorers, as well as the heartstrings and the purse strings of allies near and far, far away. But this grand journey of transformation is not over. It's not finished. APS must hold the line on purpose, then move the line to close gaps. For there are leagues of water to sail, and miles of land to traverse before Atlanta Public Schools completes its quest for excellence.
Thank you. I told you, there's a lot of stuff to be interpreted in there.
Thus we reach year 6 on our journey and quest. Hail to Atlanta taxpayers, our most generous benefactor and endorser of the 5-year East Blast, a penny sales tax that restored 17 vessels, nearly a 5th of our fleet.
Over 4 seasons, we refitted grander ships, Beecher Hills, Gideons, Hollis, Hutchinson, Humphreys, Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy amongst them, with Howard, Woodson Park, and Atlanta College and Career Academy soon on the way. We gathered here this morning to dedicate one such vessel, Harper Archer Elementary, to our quest and use it to relate our tales for our 6th state of the district.
Hail to Captain Dion Taylor and her crew. May Harper Archer and the other APS ships, which have benefited from about $200 million of investments just now, enjoy favorable winds in perpetuity. We know that journeys do not happen alone. We are guided by 9 members of a gilded board of governors. We shall call them by name, upon which you will say and cry, I, Chair Jason Estevez, Vice Chair Ishay Collins, Leslie Grant, District 1, Aretta Baldwin, District 2, Michelle Olympiades, District 3, Nancy Meister, District 4, Erica Mitchell, District 5, Candace Wood Jackson, at-large seat 7, Cynthia Briscoe Brown, at-large seat 8, I. All other elected officials. I think I saw Representative Eric Allen, maybe Antonio Brown, Doreen Carter, Donzella James, Sheila James, Lee Morris, Marcy Overstreet, Kim Schofield, Matt Westmoreland. Please cry. Where are you guys? There they are. Thank you for coming. We turn to our partners, far and wee, so that our heroes may sail long and fast and far. Thus they too may cry. Okay, good job, partners. And finally, we are further supported by parents, caregivers, and APS staff, along with my BFFs from Leadership Atlanta through blood, toil, sweat, and tears, who in turn cry. We can also boast one of the strongest education crews on the 7 seas and continents. Thank you. Deputy Superintendent David Jernigan, Chief Operations Officer Larry Hoskins, Chief Financial Officer Lisa Bracken, Chief Accountability and Information Officer Bill Carich, Chief Human Resources Officer Sky Duckett, Chief Engagement Officer Angela King-Smith, and our new General Counsel Nina Gupta. And they all say, our crew and forces started small with no map to really steer us by. They came from ports afar as well as from Atlanta itself, all unapologetically committed to a true north for children that would ignite a fledgling ship and awaken the force. And thus, the state of the district for year 6, as we near the end of one strategic course to embark on another, a more stable, valiant Atlanta Public Schools has emerged, experiencing progress with greater proficiency and higher graduation rates, but the epic tale of APS Journey of Transformation continues and work remains on our quest for excellence to be a high-performing district. Looking over the journey thus far, while the vision stays true, you can anticipate a mission that will specifically include more equity. We are indeed at the end of our 5-year strategic course with the 4 pillars of academics, systems and resources, talent management, and culture. Thus, we have conditioned our fleet and our warriors to chart the next stage of the journey. Glory will be ours when literacy is won. And you will hear field reports from 4 leaders and our patrons on how the battle has looked on the front lines. Come aboard! Looking over here, our captain and principal of the year finalist, Audrey Sofianos of Morningside Elementary.
Thank you, Commander Karstarfin. Greetings all. I speak to you today not only as the captain of Morningside in the Grady Cluster, but as a former captain of Sutton Middle in the North Atlanta Cluster, and even as a captain from another state. After a year of sailing the seas, I returned to APS for a strategic vision, renewed unwavering commitment to all children, and inspiration for the entire team to do the right work and make decisions that are child-centered. I believe our school system is on the correct trajectory for truly taking our students to new lands. APS as a system is now working for the schools and for the children as opposed to for the adults. Because of our new operating model and our contract with the state, we have autonomy and flexibility at the ship level for principals, educators, parents, and community members, all of whom are closer to students and their ship's needs. This freedom comes with the ability to chart our own courses in alignment with our cluster feeder pattern, but with increased accountability for student achievement. There are school governance bodies called Go Teams on each ship, a team of parents, educators, and community members that assist with school-based decision-making. At Morningside, we've had the flexibility to launch a customized intervention program to support all students. We've beefed up our school security by hiring our own school resource officer, and we've added a school business manager to strengthen our operations. From employee engagement to achievement scores to human resources metrics, there is much evidence that we are moving in the right direction for our children. We do not brave these waters for accolades, but the APS fleet did earn a leadership award this year from the Georgia Charter System Foundation. As part of our cluster planning, each cluster of ships adopted signature themes, such as International Baccalaureate, STEM, and college and career readiness. Over the past year, 2 schools earned STEM certification, Cleveland Avenue and Coretta Scott King. 1 earned STEAM, M. Agnes Jones, and 5 schools were authorized with IB programs last year. Those include Atlanta Neighborhood Charter, Bunch Middle, Jackson High, King Middle, and Farrell High. We now have 21 authorized IB programs and 16 IB candidate schools. There are 7 on track to apply for IB authorization this school year and 1 awaiting its determination status. Within the Grady cluster, our schools have chosen college and career readiness, which is based on the 21st century skills and knowledge our children need to succeed as citizens today and in the future. With cluster planning, we are better able to map the journey with our other ships, working together to trim our sails and align our courses. With our Go Teams, we are stronger together, and the seas, no matter how choppy, seem smoother.
Thank you for outlining this massive anchoring strategy and philosophical shift for distributing our leadership. To put this new culture into perspective, we have the APS Teacher of the Year and the Georgia Teacher of the Year, the first time for APS in almost 40 years. Welcome, Tracy Pendley.
Hi. Good morning, APS. It is no myth that the seas have been turbulent and APS employees have faced a myriad of challenges along our journey of transformation. While the media tends to report on the adversity we face and the sirens are all too ready to sing their songs of complaints, our heroic faculty and staff have met each obstacle with wisdom, with commitment, and with an unfailing loyalty to the excellent education of our students. More than ever before, our heroes report increased collaboration amongst colleagues and that their school leaders are listening. A sure sign of improved climate, I've witnessed principals' doors wide open, and for the first time in a long time, our teachers are reporting that they have a best friend in their school building. To be sure, it is not uncommon to find APS heroes and heroines on the top deck every single Friday, enjoying stories of the week's victories and filling their bellies with divine-inspired potions. Similarly, we've also seen a positive increase in employee engagement, which has improved over 5 years from the 5th national percentile to the 57th according to Gallup, putting us well above the national average for other public school systems. We've seen our children and our adults embracing social emotional learning skills, such as the ability to set goals, overcome obstacles, and develop healthy relationships. The district has seen both lower suspension and arrest rates, and our police force continues to focus on SEL and restorative practices. For the past 4 years, APS and all of its schools have earned the No Place for Hate designation from the Anti-Defamation League. It is a result of this increased collaboration and positivity that our students are growing and our teacher retention stabilizing. Indeed, the seas are smooth compared to the rough waters we first faced when many a captain jumped ship.
But principal turnover has decreased significantly, from 30% when the district had to hire 24 new principals in 2014 to 5% this year, when it hired just 4.
Woo.
Day one teacher vacancies dropped from a couple hundred to fewer than 10 this year, and that's for the 6th year in a row. As a teacher, I am thankful for this year's 5% pay raise and the $30 million correction plan completed to ensure pay parity for our crews. But y'all, this goes beyond pay. Aboard our ships, it is well known that when assistance is needed, assistance is granted. Whether it's mentor support, curriculum help, instructional feedback, or a need for new supplies, the seas are calming because Atlanta Public Schools cares about its crew.
A calm indeed has appeared on the seas as more and more patrons join the APS journey. Since we cast our ships on such an excellent quest, more than 350 patrons have joined, more than $72 million they bequest.
I want to trumpet one of our most epic partnerships. We see nearly $70 million of investment in the Grove Park community alone, of which APS put in $18.5 million for Woodson Park Academy. The other $51 million was raised by the Atlanta community to support an early learning center, a healthcare center, arts, connections to greenways, affordable housing, all part of a major community revitalization effort that includes Atlanta Public Schools, the Grove Park Foundation, KIPP Metro Atlanta, and the YMCA of Metro Atlanta. Just last week, we closed another $4.8 million in new market tax credits. I would like to recognize Deborah Edelson and Wendy Stewart of Bank of America. Please stand for your leadership and for being here today. Among other dedicated patrons, investing in other components of turnaround and transformation, our Delta Community Credit Union, but represented by Rena Scott. Also, Kelly Stewart, the Executive Director of LEAD and Family First Credit Union, here with Holly Clarity, the Vice President of Marketing.
We at Delta Community Credit Union are fully on board with APS's epic journey. We also salute the Atlanta Committee for Progress for its help in raising $1.7 million for the new College and Career Academy, which will open its own campus in fall of 2020. The transformation is going on in real time today as volunteers from Cox Enterprises joined Outteach to work with Harper Archer students and the community to design an outdoor learning lab for this school. You may have seen some of that work this morning.
LEAD has also been a great friend to APS for several years. We joined other great patrons such as Coca-Cola, which will provide all 2020 graduates with caps and gowns made from recycled bottles, and Fulton County Government Youth Services, which awarded a $250,000 grant to add efforts to improve culture, climate, and attendance.
Family First Credit Union is honored to sponsor this epic journey of transportation and has also been a great friend to APS for several years. We want everyone to know that they too can become a friend of the fleet and supporters of heroic students. For the personal gift of only $100, you can be a part of the brand new Friends of APS and help expand the Whole Child Fund that fuels the transformation of the district's ships and regiments.
So please join Jay Cranman, Cheryl Neely, Juliana Cagle, Christina Christie, Brigitte Peck, and Cynthia Coleman, who give today as Friends of APS. Please know your support, no matter how big or small, is deeply appreciated. You can join the journey today by visiting the partnerships table when you leave today. Thank you.
Book 2, the impetus for the continuation of the journey. Why we confront the slings and arrows of inequities and intergenerational poverty on the quest for excellence.
We still have a long way to go on our journey in Book 2. But let's recognize some of the progress we've made together. Looking at the bookends of education from pre-K to graduation, we are so excited that our district now offers 1,336 pre-K seats. That's a 35% increase over the last 5 years. In that time, we've also grown the graduation rate from 51.9% to 59.1 to 77.9%, which is an 18.8 percentage point growth. Although our graduation rate did decline by 2 percentage points this year from our all-time high posted last year, we continue to graduate more kids, 506 of them, which is 68 more than we did the year before. And we're doing our part to make sure our kids go to college. As you can see, the acceptance rate is now at 62%, which is up 11 percentage points over the last 5 years. Thank you, Achieve Atlanta counselors, high school leaders. To look at the ways our captains and counselors and graduation coaches have done this work in partnership with Achieve Atlanta, for college and career readiness, let's hear from our very own new Principal of the Year. Let me say that again. The Principal of the Year, whose outstanding work was recognized by Good Morning America. Welcome, Yolanda Washington from CSK.
Thank you so much, Dr. C. To improve the pathway to college and career, we have a plethora of strategies in place at Coretta Scott King. These strategies include tracking and locating every one of our cohort crew members 1 year prior to graduation. We're able to do this because we make home visits, we take to social media, and we do an in-depth dive of student records. Every student that is a senior at Coretta Scott King is assigned an adult mentor. That student is also engaged in after-school tutorials, is a part of our lunch and learns, and works strategically with that mentor to review opportunities for growth on a monthly basis. These efforts have definitely paid off because we have a 100% graduation rate. Thank you. Our graduation team consists of our graduation counselor, our graduation coach, our counselor, our registrar, and a plethora of support staff members along with teachers working together to make sure our babies are ready for the next steps. Also, we work closely with Achieve Atlanta, and I would like to give a big shout out to Ms. Tina Fernandez. Woo-woo! For her efforts with all of the high schools. We take full advantage of our college preparation advisements, along with being a part of events like the SAT School Day to ensure that all of our students are on the right paths to apply to and go to college. Like those students at Coretta Scott King, more and more APS students are taking college entrance exams. 90% of our graduation class of 2019 took the SAT, and this is a 33% increase over the class of 2018, whereas only 57% of our students took the SAT. So that is awesome. Now, this work starts with a team of dedicated educators who love hard and work even harder. The CSK staff rallies around intentional instructional planning, literacy, project-based learning across all content areas. As you are aware, this College and Career Ready Performance Index was released on last month. And at Coretta Scott King, we had an increase of 10.6 points to 78.7 for our middle school, and an increase of 9.6 to 75.2 for our high school. So we are so excited.
Great work. And we'll continue looking at CCRPI scores at the district level. APS achieved overall 74.1, which is an increase from 2018. We actually narrowed the gap with the state, which brings us to only a 1.8 gap. We also narrowed the gap with elementary with Georgia and with high school. In the middle school area, we did finally exceed the state by a hair, but we did surpass the state. Additionally, 19 elementary schools beat the state average. That's 6 more than last year. 13 middle schools beat the state average. That's 9 more than last year. And 5 high schools beat the state average, which is the same as last year. According to the latest results, 48 of 87 APS schools saw increases in their CCRPI scores compared to last year. But I clap because they did do a great job. We still have more work to do. Much of CCRPI is based on the Georgia milestones. So looking at that state assessment, we can see that APS achieved the highest gains to date in the percentage of students who scored proficient and above across all subjects on the 2019 Georgia milestones, both end of grade and end of course. Specifically, APS posted year-over-year gains in the percentage of students scoring proficient and above in 21 of 24 assessments, or 88%, and that's up from 52% the previous year. When we started. Clap, 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 clap. Overall, 80% of APS elementary and middle schools achieved increases, and finally, all 17 of our turnaround schools in our APS turnaround strategy improved. But it does not tell of all the angst and struggle that many of our ships go through, the rebuilding, the repairing of sails, the strengthening of their keels, making their ships stronger, much stronger than they were only 5 years ago. But research shows that sustainable progress comes in incremental spurts and in waves, and you can see gains and drops and bigger gains and then another dip and so on and so forth. And thank you for all the physical, thank you. As long as you know, we're moving forward and you remain at the center of the quest of excellence. This work is not for the faint of heart, and thank goodness we have principals like Robin Christian of Barack and Michelle Obama Academy, another Principal of the Year finalist. She left a school, volunteered to go to one of the most struggling schools in the state of Georgia and APS, took on that turnaround, and is now at the helm and has a story to tell.
When I came into the school 5 years ago, we needed a reset. D.H. Stanton Elementary School was one of the poorest schools in the state of Georgia with some of the lowest proficiency scores. It wasn't a school of choice in Peoplestown or anywhere. I'm a firm believer that all you have in life is your name. We were tired of the public perception, so we changed our name to Barack and Michelle Obama Academy.
Woo-woo!
Because their childhoods reflect those of our very own students. The Obamas represented hope. We adopted the eagle, a symbol of resurgence and resiliency, as our mascot. Eagles fly into the storm to molt and then soar above the turbulent weather. BAMO is molting, and it will continue to soar. While we made these symbolic changes, we also made intentional changes to processes, structures, and even staff. As a turnaround educator, your core must be strong and you must have grit. While only 4 of the original teachers are still on board at BAMO today, our staff all speak the same language and we lean into the work. We only had one partner at that time, and that was the Atlanta Braves on my very first day. We now have more than I can even count, including Sheltering Arms, which creates an early learning birth to 4 pipeline with a center on our site. The Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation, the District Partner of the Year, which offers critical legal assistance to needy families, and many organizations offering wraparound supports. Just this year, 21st Century awarded BAMO a $1.5 million 5-year grant to give 100 of our students an extended learning day, including academic support and enrichment. We now offer 14 extracurricular activities such as robotics, sponsored by Emory, and a junior beta club, which enables our students to amass large amounts of community service hours. You walk into our school at 6 p.m., it's so busy, it looks as if we are actually building the whole child, which we are, and one would think that it is actually 10 a.m. in the morning. At Bama, we have definitely experienced the waves of incremental progress with some large gains on an index like the CCRPI in years past, but then a drop like we saw on the recent wave of CCRPI scores on the logs you showed earlier. It hit our teachers hard because it doesn't tell the full story of the mad chase for the quest. Big lifts and lulls are part of the journey. I tell our crews and families they need to have patience and ride these tides. We cannot give into the pressures to see huge gains every single year. Looking at the longer course of the journey, especially at our literacy and math scores over the past 5 years, we have seen incredible progress at Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. In 2015, only 8.4% of our students were proficient in literacy, but today we are proud that 25.7% are proficient according to 2019 Georgia milestones. Likewise, in math, we started with only 7.5% proficient in 2015, and now 19% of our students are proficient in mathematics. We are not alone in our story. We have seen other APS schools make big lifts and then hit these dips. But there are examples that have rebounded on the other side of lull, like M. Agnes Jones Elementary School.
Woo!
And Towns Elementary, one of the 2 schools that launched Harper Archer. APS looks at other indicators as well. For example, the Nation's Report Card, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, shows the APS fleet achieving incremental gains in both literacy and math among its 4th and 8th graders. The percentage of APS students scoring proficient and above has increased in all 4 tested grades and subjects since 2015, according to NAEP. Gains are statistically significant in 4th grade math and 8th grade reading. While we have made big lifts as a ship and a fleet, we must strive to do more.
I agree. Thank you, Captain Christian. Let's take a look at some of the challenges ahead. When the state explains Georgia milestones, for example, English language arts proficiency, they talk about beginning learners, developing learners, proficient learners, and distinguished learners. When we care about proficiency and above, it means that kids are really ready to move on to the next grade level. Our district used to talk about developing learners as part of that formula. We don't anymore, because developing really doesn't mean that you're ready. Beginning learners, those that have no shills, don't have the skills to move to the next grade level. There are 35.1% of them. 28% developing leaders. And 25.5% proficient learners and 11.4% distinguished learners make up APS. In 2019, we had made an intentional focus to start our process to ensure that everyone would be in proficiency and above. So when we talk about this, we have 36.9% of our 3rd through 8th graders proficient in English language arts, which is a 4.6 percentage point gain over the last 4 years. But 63.1% of those students are not proficient in ELA. Now, you ready for the other sobering truth about our students? When you drill deeper in demographics around characteristics of students like race or socioeconomics, it reveals a startling gap. Among our white students, 84.1% are proficient and above, while the rest do not. Among our black students, only 25.3% are proficient and above with the good shills. This is why we do not declare victory. The journey is not complete. The work is not done. It's not done until we're at 100%. That would mean all of our students, regardless of demographics, are proficient and distinguished learners. That is the journey forward. No one wants to go after that. Greek chorus?
Book 3, The Journey Ahead, when we navigate the educational waters and paths before us. We've started a turnaround legacy achieving higher engagement, better collaboration, and improved outcomes.
Continued focus is required to dramatically close achievement gaps for our most vulnerable students in Atlanta Public Schools.
Over the past 5 years, we've done more to shore up our tax base to protect our revenues under the pressures of tax allocation districts and abatements that can divert too much money away from our students and our taxpayers. We've invested deeply in our turnaround strategies and our signature programs, our district-wide work. And we've returned approximately $200 million in 4 years to our taxpayers by rolling back the millage and increasing the homestead exemption through Senate Bill 485 to help with the pressures of those tax bills. Now, more than 73% of our $854 million general fund budget goes directly to schools, most of it through our our weighted student success formula, which drives money into the hands of schools and school teams to make decisions based on the demographics of our diverse students. But is it enough? As we continue our work, we must understand the most unfair truth about Atlanta. It is that it is the most unequal city in the United States when it comes to income disparity. Research shows that when a child is born in poverty in Atlanta, that child only has a 4.5% chance to rise to the top quarter of earners. Roughly 75% of our children in Atlanta public schools live in low-income households. How can we address the effects of poverty on students? Clearly, no one knows how to do that. So we have to debate this in the city of Atlanta with Atlanta Public Schools, philanthropy, and our business community. We have to do this. But to get it right, we're going to stoke the flames of debate, because we have the best debaters in the state of Georgia, in this nation, and global winners. Welcome, Grady High Jesters and the Harvard Diversity Project, our orators.
For many a moon your orations you did hone, until this day as you cast your fate upon these bones. Shall you debate aye, or shall you be nay? Depends on how these dice finally lay.
Jesters, Grady, Harvard Diversity Project, the highest number gets to pick. That would be Harvard Diversity Project. Would you like the affirm or nay? I need the resolve. They will debate. In Atlanta Public Schools, equity in education is best accomplished with a primary focus on increased funding to underachieving schools.
We affirm the resolve. According to the most current census data, the median household income within our school district is $167,087 for white students and $23,803 for black students. When multiplying these numbers by the number of years a child is in the Atlanta public school system, white students accumulate $1.8 million more throughout their educational experience from their household than black students. Therefore, I hold the negative accountable for achieving the inequity gap without compensating for the $1.8 million parental financial contribution gap. Subpoint A, the system is working. Policy and Outreach Director at the Education Law Center of the National League of Cities explained in 2018 that when it comes to funding education, what is essential is a finance system that recognizes the unique needs of all students, especially low-income students, and delivers funding equitably. Here's how increasing funding to underachieving schools will allow that to happen. 1, per pupil spending. When we allocate for discrepancies and set the course for leveling the playing field, we will be one step closer to closing the gap of educational achievement. Dr. Bruce Baker of Rutgers corroborates in a 2016 study telling us that just a 21.7% increase in per pupil spending throughout all 12 years was enough to eliminate the education attainment gap between children from low income and non-poor families and raise graduation rates for low income children by 20 percentage points. APS per pupil spending in 2018 rose to $15,322, up 17% from 2014, and at the same time, the percentage of students scoring proficient in third grade mathematics EOC exams rose 15% from 2014 to 45.1% in 2018. Subpoint B, the increased funding from APS compensates for the lack of funding from outside contributions. According to a report conducted on September 30th of this year, schools in impoverished neighborhoods receive almost half of outside funding compared to schools in prospering areas. For example, Grady High School has an ending balance of $308,111 from outside funding, while Douglas High School has an ending balance of $55,692. That is a $252,418 difference in funding that Atlanta Public Schools is striving to make up for. The increased funding from Atlanta Public Schools will give schools like Douglas High School the financial equity that it needs to be able to compete with schools like Grady. We define equity as the quality of being fair and impartial. By disproportionately funding underachieving schools, it is not only showing improvement in these schools, but it is also compensating for the lack of outside funding that more impoverished neighborhoods can contribute. Realize that we proved to you that the status quo, increasing funding to underachieving schools, is showing improvement in educational achievement and striving to reach equity. Do not let one zip code and parental contribution determine a student's educational experience. Therefore, I strongly urge you to vote affirmative.
Esteemed Congressman and civil rights activist John Lewis once said, "Young people are our nation's future, and we must give them every chance to succeed." Because we strongly agree with his words, we negate today's resolution. Alternatives are stronger at boosting equity in Atlanta public schools, so they should be the primary focus of their policy. Increased funding alone is not effective. National trends have indicated that when schools increase funds for students, that doesn't really lead to a boost in student achievement. An article from the New York Times states that schools have continued to increase funds for students, but that hasn't really led to achievement. Test scores and graduation rates have remained stagnant. How money is spent is therefore much more important than how much money is spent. And these trends also apply to APS. Grady and North Atlanta receive the least amount of funding per student in the district, but they continuously have the highest test scores and graduation rates. Clearly, money alone is not the answer, and it is a mistake to simply increase funds and expect that to solve for systemic problems in our education system. Thus, the best long-term solution to educational inequity is to bolster preschool education. This method ultimately differs from the affirmative method because we are trying to increase earlier access to preschools and increase the number of preschool facilities instead of merely trying to pump additional money into already existing schools. Educational inequity starts even before formal schooling. Higher income students can know up to 4,500 more words than lower income students before either ever step foot into a classroom. That achievement gap continues to grow throughout middle school and high school. So the best solution to inequality is addressing the root cause of the achievement gap and investing in preschool education. It is always better to try and prevent something than to try and mitigate its effects later on down the line. Instead of waiting for students in schools to fall behind and then expecting that a few thousand extra dollars will achieve equity, we must instead tackle the problem head on and close the achievement gap before it even has a chance to open. Cognitive studies have indicated that the achievement gap between low and high income students begins at age 2, and as time progresses, it becomes almost impossible to close that gap. So it is imperative that early education gets expanded so that students can begin to learn in their most formative years. Elementary and middle schools already have enough resources to make sure that the achievement gap doesn't enlarge any further. So closing the gap in preschool will allow us to make sure that we can achieve true equity once and for all. Sadly, the status quo is not sufficient when it comes to preschool education. APS does not fill the gap because they only fund preschool for 4-year-olds, and they only have just over 1,000 spots, but there are over 35,000 children in our district who are preschool eligible. So to truly close the achievement gap and make sure everyone gets the education that they deserve, we must first divert more funds to preschools, and that can truly achieve equality in our district. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to ask the first question. So, in your argument, what you're essentially saying is shift the priority away from middle and high school funding and move it down to pre-K. So wouldn't all of your supposed effects fade away when these students go back into the schools that are now, one, underfunded and underachieving?
There's two things. First, these schools aren't underfunded. We've indicated that APS spends way more per pupil spending on underachieving schools than schools with higher graduation rates. Secondly, we don't think that their dreams are being unfulfilled or that they're unable to conquer these things because we focus on pre-K and expanding that, especially since we're not taking away funding from underachieving schools in the status quo. We think that we can either retroactively try to patch up damage that's already done and beat a dead horse when we already give increased funding to underachieving schools, or remedying the root of the issue, ensure that there's never an equity gap that we need to fix in the first place. My question is that we've estimated that our plan will cost around $2.5 million more than we currently spend. Can funding underachieving schools completely close the achievement gap? And if so, what is the financial threshold for that? I'm putting emphasis on what you think enough funding is to close the gap, especially since we already give money to underachieving schools in the status quo.
So you can't effectively put a price on our future. The Apollo 11 space mission cost $355 million. It takes dollars to ensure that we have a brighter and stronger future. But I'm glad you bring up cost in this issue. Fact of the matter is the APS institutions have earned their increase in funding. You look at third grade mathematics, you will see proficiency rates between 2014 and 2018. There was a steep increase, while at the same time we increased per pupil spending. They earn the money, they earn the increase in spending, and we're not going to stop at anything, no financial threshold, until these students have proficiency rate of 100%, because we want to ensure that all students graduate college and career ready. Now let me ask you a question. So when we talk about When we talk about pumping more money into these schools, we're not just throwing money at them. We're talking about academic resources, counseling centers, writing centers. So my question to you is, what does funding pre-K do now for the Grady High School freshman who's struggling on his English papers?
I've already answered your question. We already give more money to underachieving schools than we already do to schools that are upperachieving. We think that we should attack the root cause of the issue. We've identified the achievement gap starts at age 2. By closing the achievement gap then, there's never room for it to grow.
Okay, you have a question?
Yes. So you've drawn a correlation between increased APS funding and higher achievement levels over the years, but correlation does not prove causation. So how can you account for causation, especially without reverse causal evidence? I'm asking about real empirical evidence that proves causation.
Well, I'm glad you brought up real empirical evidence, because I'm going to take you back to the third grade mathematics EOC proficiency scores between 2014 and 2018. The scores are going up at the same time that we're increasing funding. If you're looking for causation, I point you to APS's student success funding model. They're literally making a conceded effort to ensure that every dollar they get goes directly into the schools and that they see it directly in front of them.
That's not what causation means.
Then what is it? I'm literally telling you that the scores are going up at the same time the money is going up, and the students can see the materialization of the funds that are being spent on them. What else do you want?
Sure,
you want to put the money directly into their bank
I'm asking
accounts?
about reverse causal evidence.
Okay, we are officially not making it to lunch.
There are approximately 54,956 students enrolled in APS as of July 2019. Out of that number, only 35,000 students are eligible for preschool. Our opponents are literally saying that 35,000 students are more important than the 54,956 students that are in school now. They're planning to increase resources for younger students, but fail to provide a solvency mechanism for the students that are enrolled in school currently, and completely disregard the fact that there are other factors of educational inequity, such as housing, environment, and most importantly, socioeconomic status. Fixing the problems that we have now not only helps the children achieve educational equity, but also ensures that we never have these problems in the near future. Remember the fact that we held the opposing side accountable for achieving the inequity gap without compensating for the 1.8 million parental financial contribution gap. But throughout their case, they have not done so. They also provide you with statistics that are from the national study, but we give you statistics specifically for APS. It is for these reasons that the affirmative wins this debate.
Time.
The negative wins this debate by proving that the alternatives to increasing funding are more effective. Investing in preschool and pre-K in low-income neighborhoods of Atlanta is investing in our students and is investing in our future, and directly addresses educational inequity with students of color. Because by beginning learning at age 2, they will never fall 4,500 vocabulary words behind their advantaged counterparts. APS will meet a breaking point where adding money onto the problem makes barely any difference at all in the success of disadvantaged minority students. Additional financial resources should come from the city of Atlanta, leaving APS to focus on preventing the achievement gap through early education. No reform model is perfect, and to assume that centuries of inequity can be solved by a 10-minute debate is simply incorrect. But we offer you the truth. And the truth is that we must invest in the future generations to break systematic oppression in education. Because equity, no matter how many dollars you spend, will never be achieved in a day.
Time. Oh my God, you did great. You did great. You did great. Thank you. Bye, thank you. You did such a great job. Thank you. You did such a great job, students. Okay, so for the record, the night I had to go practice with them, I said I had to go. I was like, I cannot listen to the sausage making of these. But here's what I want to tell you. They did not know which side they would get, so that means they prepared for both sides to be able to argue it both ways. And in case we didn't say it, all those kids are from Atlanta Public Schools. So no matter where the debate turns, for the rest of the school year, even though we clearly don't have all the answers, This administration will continue to work on our strategic and turnaround plans, set up APS to accelerate the dismantling of the achievement gap, protect our collectible digest, identify more areas to address inequities that will need to be resourced, engage our community in completing our facility master plan, including a fleshed out proposal for a fine arts school. I think I just decided that right now because our kids are so talented, they deserve a chance at doing the arts. And most of all, we're going to double down on our literacy campaign. And you can help us today by supplying these brave students with literacy skills. Okay, now we're going to bring in the Trailblazers, and we are officially over time, but you cannot leave here without doing the following. We are going to take those teeny tiny little first and second graders who are about to descend all up in your life, right? But first, before we read them a book, we are going to let them sing their battle hymn.
One day when the glory comes, it will be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day when little seeds were, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory. Oh, hands to the heaven, let us start expressing. With your help, yes, learning is destined. Every day, girls and boys become legends, and epic gather may become our own blessing. The movement is a rhythm to us. Knowledge is a pathway to us. Reading is just positioning us. Education for some just ain't good enough. Read each day, reading is essential to us. 20 minutes reading with us, believing in us. That's why we need you on a bus. That's why we need you to get your books up. Now is the time to woman and man up. Race to read, now you stand up. Boots on the ground, that's where you come in. We're heading to the mountaintop, help us run up. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, the little seeds one, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory.
High School and the North Atlanta Orchestra. And of course, our beautiful Trailblazers. Today, you'll become part of the transformation for Atlanta Public Schools as we immerse the entire district in a campaign to train ourselves as adults and to support our students across the map of Atlanta Public Schools. For our little crews and troops, including our Harper Archer Trailblazers, the most important of them about to appear all alongside you. Go ahead, babies, find yourselves adults. Go, 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 go. We're over time. But I want to mention this. The most important arrow in their quiver is the most critical part of the armor, the reading. Drill sergeants from Delta Airlines and TutorMate, there they are, have trained hundreds of our students and join us today. The Urban League of Greater Atlanta have joined us in full force with a grant from the Hewlett Foundation to help us continue our Race to Read campaign. It challenges our community to read 20 minutes with kids every single day. We have a 10 million minute goal for Atlanta Public Schools for this school year, and you're gonna help us do that right now. Forget your lunch, you're not eating until you read. We're gonna read the SCL Book of the Month. You have that book in your hands, open it up and find yourself a baby. You can get out of your seat if you need to go get one. Hey, does anybody out there want to come up on the stage and help me? Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. I'm sitting right there, though. There you go. Cynthia, turn this away. Turn this way, yeah. And hold your book to the right.
Mr. Lawrence.
Come on up. Find a baby.
Are we done?
Find a baby. Don't be shy. Just find a baby. You want to come closer to me? All right. This is a hot mess, but we're getting started. Okay, wait. You're not reading. Hold on. We're gonna do this. This is how you read aloud. We're gonna do some teaching. All right, so just work with me. Okay, here we go. Here's how you do it. Today, we're gonna read the SEL book of the month. It's called Those Shoes. You can look at the cover and see that some of the boys have on the same shoes. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Okay, we're gonna read the book together. Here we go. The book is written by Mary Beth Bolts, and it's illustrated by, in other words, the person who drew the pictures. We have some very naughty adults on my stage. Please, okay, kids, tell the adults to be quiet. Okay, so we can read the book. The pictures are by Noah Z. Jones. Okay, so look at this first page. What season do you think the book is in? Fall. Here we go. Those Shoes. Mary Beth Bolts, illustrated by Nora Z. Jones. I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops, 2 white stripes. Grandma, I want them. There's no room for want around here. Just need, Grandma says. And what you need are new boots for the winter. Brandon T. comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now, not me. I was always the fastest runner before those shoes came along. Can shoes make you fast? No. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonio and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times in one day, just so he can walk up and down the hall real slow. Next, Alan Jacoby and Terrence each get a pair. Then one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart. How do you think he feels? Sad. Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy, Mr. Alfred, the guidance counselor, says. He brings out a box of shoes and other stuff he has for kids who needs them. He helps me find the only shoes that are my size, Velcro. Like the ones my little cousin Marshall wears. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't think any kid ever watched. Look at his face. He is just disgusted. When I come back to the classroom, Alan Jacoby takes one look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes and laughs. And so does Terrence, Brandon T., and everyone else. The only kid not laughing is Antonio Parker. How do you think Jeremy feels now? He feels really upset. He's probably a little ashamed, right? At home, Grandma says, "How kind of Mr. Alfrey." I nod and turn my back. I'm not gonna cry about any dumb shoes, but when I'm writing my spelling words, later every word looks like the word shoes, and my grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might bust. On Saturday, Grandma says, "Let's check out those shoes you're wanting so much. I got a little bit of money set aside. May it be enough, you never know. At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sits it, she sits down heavy. Maybe they wrote it down wrong, I say. Grandma shakes her head. What do you think is wrong? What? They're too expensive. That's why she's sitting down heavy. Then I remember the thrift shops. What if there's a rich kid who outgrew his or got 2 pairs for Christmas and had to give one of them away? Now, I know a thrift shop is a place you go to buy expensive things that are cheap, right? Okay. We ride the bus to the first stop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoes except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift shop. Not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner is the third thrift shop. I see something in the window. What do you think it is? The shoes! Black shoes with 2 white stripes, high top, perfect shape, $2.50. Those shoes. My heart is pounding. As I take off my shoes, I hitch up my baggy socks. How exciting, Grandma says. What size are they? I shove my foot in the first shoe, curling my toes, get my heel in. I don't know. I think they'll fit. Grandma kneels on the floor and feels for my toes at the end of the shoe. Oh, Jeremy, she says, I can't spend good money on shoes that don't fit. I pull the other shoe on and try to walk around. They're okay, I say, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money, and I squeeze them on and limp to the bus stop. Look at his feet. What do you have? What's on his feet? Band-Aids. He's got blisters. At home, a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and doesn't say a word about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my 2 small shoes. Sometimes shoes stretch, I say. Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes don't stretch. I have to wear my Mr. Alfrey shoes to school instead. One day, during math, I glance at Antonio's shoes. One of them is taped up, and his feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think. Antonio is there, the only kid who didn't laugh at my Mr. Alfrey shoes. You remember Antonio, right? We shoot baskets. A piece of loose tape on Antonio's shoes smacks the concrete every time he jumps. I think, I'm not gonna do it. We leap off the swings. I'm not gonna do it. We race from one end of the playground to the other. I'm not going to do it, I say. Do what? Antonio says, breathing hard. What do you think he's gonna do? Let's see what happens. Grandma calls me for supper and invites Antonio over too. After supper, he spies my shoes. Hey, how come you don't wear them? Antonio asks. I shrug. My hands are sweaty. I can feel him wishing those shoes were his. That night, I am awake for a long time thinking about Antonio. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Before I can change my mind, the shoes are in my coat. Snow is beginning to fall across the street to Antonio's apartment. I put the shoes in his front door. I push the doorbell and I run. Why do you think he ran? So Antonio doesn't know. Okay, here we go. At school, Antonio is smiling big in his brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face, and I'm mad when I look at my Mr. Alfred shoes. But later, time for recess, something happens. Everywhere there is snow. Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots, the teacher announces. Leave your shoes in the hall? It's then I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots, new black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in line to go to recess, Antonio leans forward and says, "Thanks." I smile and give him a nudge. Let's race! Wait now, let's ask one question. Do you think that Jeremy did the right thing? Yes. Is he a good friend? Yes. So let's remember, it's important that things that matter to you, warm boots, a loving grandmother, a best friend, is more important than just getting what you want. You need love and support in your life. That's what we're asking all of these people from the state of the district to do for Harper Archer and all of Atlanta Public Schools. All right, for those of you, I need the camera on me. You can give your book, take your cover off. You can give your book to our beautiful students so they have a book of their own. You want to find someone? And on the back of your cover, is a QR code. Use your phone. It will take you to beingstack.com. Scroll to administration and community. Please click on the link. Register as a reader or sign in if you already are. And choose a school or location and receive credit for your reading minutes. Donate them to this school. Don't stop there. Everybody find their seats. Don't stop there. It's our first step in ensuring literacy is won. Come back to Harper Archer and read to these kids again. This is epic and transformational for children who need your support. Where's my singers? Oh, hello, gorgeous. Let's do it.
One day when the glory comes, it will be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day when little city is one, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory.
But the journey continues. It is not done. Forge on, brave adventurers. We cannot slow. We have gone far, but further we must go. Go forth, APS, and do your part. Contribute your love, your time, but give from the heart. Epiphany.
I'm scared for my generation. Some want to wear red and some want to wear blue. I don't know what to do. I wish we can go back in time and march together like the kings and queens used to. Because it's more than life than just wearing a color. I hear gang banging and killing one another. Why can't we stick together and love one another? Why can't we work together so we don't have to struggle?
Listen from the heart, Asmara. Black girl too black. Black girl not black enough.
Black girls speak too loud, too outspoken, too runaway slave. Black girls speak too quiet, too controlled, too house slave. Black girl a slave no matter how she speak. Black girl was taught to only speak when spoken to. Black girl's not spoken to, so black girl don't speak. Black girl tired of being called black, rather be referred to as girl or her name perhaps. Black girl tired of them forgetting her name. Speak from the heart, Tyler.
Dilapidation out here too. It's why we're not smiling. When you see the gold on my teeth, you'll take that too. The ground below us shattered, doomsday, street blood pushed out to the skies. The black rapture as the cold front pillages in, silver linings replaced with red lining. In the morning, the snow will make it look brand new. Just oh, so nice and brand new. I'll be ready with my shovel, and then I'll bury it. The sound, the echo of the train, it goes out forever and brings the vastness back to me. It's a constant sound, and so it is silence, sweet silence again.
Love from the heart, Elliot.
Elliot.
But remember this, kings and queens and everybody in between. Remember, you need to run through every throng, singing your song as loudly as you can. Remember your pear tree. Remember it growing each and every leaf. Remember your chapter does not end here. The book does not end. The next chapter will begin in the next spring. Remember this, because next spring you'll come back stronger, because
destiny is in the hands of those who put students in schools top of mind.
Those who come with that mission have the motivation to create a situation of trust and collaboration.
So that all of Atlanta's children may have lives of hope and ambition.
And an abundance of choices, colleges, careers, and service, say I. Such a journey some might describe as
grand,
monumental,
majestic,
perhaps copacetic,
heroic,
gigantic.
But Jackson High School slam poets and I prefer this perfect word for our mission, our journey, our quest. That singular, particular, spectacular word is
epic.
Epic. Epic.
Epic.
Epic.
Epic. Epic. Epic. Epic. For North Atlanta. For North Atlanta's Olivia Sparrow, it is time for us to take our leave.
Thus, the 2019 State of the District is over. The program is done. Not so for our journey and our quest until literacy is won. For only when all students can read and see choices in life will there be an end to the cycles of violence, illiteracy, and strife. That's the truth, and I'm being prophetic. If we get this right for kids, it's gonna be epic. Go forth on your paths for them. Don't stray until we meet again. I bid you an epic way.